Hi, I'm Jack. Welcome back to my channel and a new video. Today I'm going to be doing a review for the American remake of The Ring from 2002 from director Gore Verbinski. And the story of this one is about this woman who, after watching a strange and disturbing tape, receives this phone call telling her that she's going to die in 7 days. So I've actually been meaning to rewatch The Ring for the longest time now. It's been staring at me from my DVD collection for years. And for some reason in my memory, I'd always kind of lumped this one in with all of those early 2000s horror movies, which for the most part fit a certain style and formula. Just where everything's sort of very fastly edited, moving at 100 miles an hour. There was a certain style to the scares, the violence and everything. And they were always like relatively short movies. I don't know if it's just because recently I've been watching all the Saw movies again. I saw House of Wax, The Grudge, and stuff like that. So I've just kind of got those in my head. And I always had The Ring down as being a movie that was like that. But that actually wasn't fair to put it in that category at all. I was amazed by how different The Ring is from those collection of films. I actually really enjoyed the experience going back to revisit this one. And not only did I enjoy it a lot more this time, but I actually got a lot more out of it as well. I love this kind of really gothic tone and style that Gore Verbinski brings to The Ring. He's got quite a distinctive style about him, I think. I've seen another one of his horror films, Cure for Wellness, and that was another one where, just like visually, the way everything looked and the kind of atmosphere it built from the locations and stuff like that. It's a very particular style and I really, really like it. In The Ring here, everything's kind of like this dark bluey colour and, the weather's always sort of misty and rainy and it's almost quite soothing to kind of watch the characters be in this environment and stuff, and it just sets up this perfect atmosphere for this very kind of dark and somber story that they're telling here. It just works extremely well. I really liked the dynamic between the two leads as well. Quite an unusual relationship as well to have as the two focus points for leading a movie, where you've got this couple who are no longer together. And it doesn't really go into this in the movie of how long they've been apart, but you can sort of tell they still have this level of respect for each other and can kind of work together when they need to. And obviously they become looped back in together when the circumstances of this film go down. This is a situation they're both that have both been brought into, and it kind of touches on these themes as well, with the fact that Aidan, their child, is quite disturbed and a little bit unusual. And they kind of allude to in the film the fact that him and the dad don't really know each other. They kind of go into it a little bit, the fact that he kind of has these commitment issues and he didn't want to be a dad, so he kind of pulled away from the situation and let Naomi Watts' character effectively be the parent. And I think the movie kind of insinuates that this kid is potentially troubled as a result of that, because obviously on the mirror side you have this what really is quite a tragic story of Samara, who was an unusual and strange child, and eventually her family end up abandoning her as well, obviously in the most extreme and horrific way. But I just thought it was quite interesting how they did touch on the themes between these two families, even though obviously one was, as you say, a much more extreme version of the other. The scares in this film are definitely handled extremely well. A lot of the horror elements, there's a reason why they've been remembered for so long. I do think, especially the whole concept of the phone call kind of giving you this warning is a really genius idea. There's obviously something about human nature that just really hates the idea of this kind of looming unknown threat slowly coming towards them. And it's where you only get this notice that you've got 7 days and you don't know what's coming for you and in what form it's going to be, or how are you going to die, what's going to happen. And just something about that slowly coming towards you, just that unknown thing. There is something definitely that gets under people's skin, and it does me as well. Even when I watch this now, if you think about the idea of that happening, it is quite a creepy idea. And as well, obviously talking about that final scene, I do still think it is quite a scary sequence. It does work really well. And again, it's that kind of thing where they're not using jump scares here. They do just have this slow scene where Samara properly reveals herself crawling out of this well, slowly walking towards the screen. I can only imagine back in the day in the cinema when this was out, people wondering what was going to happen. I've kind of put myself in those shoes watching this last night. And yeah, just seeing her first start to crawl out of the TV screen, you've got the water coming out, and it's pretty horrific. It still works really well. I think the only thing about it that I don't like they did is they kind of used this sort of CGI effect or filter on the actress after she's actually out and walking, and it doesn't look the best. It's kind of a shame. I don't feel like there's really a reason to do that, because her actually crawling out of the TV looks really good. It's just when she's actually standing up in the room and slowly walking towards the guy that it starts to look a little bit off, because they've got some effects works going on. So I'm not really sure why they chose to do that. But overall, it's still a very memorable and pretty scary scene. I've forgotten as well how dark the final reveal of the ring is, you know, that whole twist conclusion. And it's one that I do think works really well, because it does kind of pull the rug from under you a little bit. It is quite a surprising ending, especially because it's quite a dark and somber film. You feel like towards the end, you feel like they're going to completely overcome this situation in a way. And obviously Naomi Watts' character does survive, but then they give you this reveal that she hasn't survived for the reason she thinks she does. And, you know, obviously you have this situation where she's kind of uncovered this tragic story of Samara. She's kind of shown it, she's discovered it, she's kind of acknowledged it. And by going into that well and opening it up, she believes that she's freed this spirit. And that's the thing that will end up stopping this curse, because obviously when she doesn't die on her seventh day, we're led to believe as the audience that's what's happened. It's kind of broken that cycle. And obviously then you get this kind of warning from the child. He obviously is having these dreams and these visions, and he says, oh no, like, you shouldn't have saved her. And she's confused. Then obviously you can see the atmosphere in the film kind of changes, and you have this realisation that it's only stopped for her. And the guy who was with her, helping her, he's not fine. Suddenly, you know, the TV comes on his seventh day, and you realise that Samara is about to make an appearance, and he's going to die, basically. And I think it's just then obviously then it has this cutaway scene to the tape copy that Naomi Watts' character made earlier in the film. And for me, I don't know if it's just me being an idiot, but for me, this twist does take a minute to really click and actually understand what has happened here. I was really paying attention to the film. I was fully engrossed in it. And it did take me a few minutes to recognise what was going on. It's kind of when she's making the copies with Aidan later, you realise, like, oh, of course, that's what's going on here. But it does take a minute for me to really realise what's going on there. Then you realise how dark this twist really is. But yeah, I don't think the film makes it obvious. I don't know whether that was intentional or not, or whether it wants to kind of leave it to you for the minute, but I just feel like when it cuts away from him and this experience he's going through with Samara coming out on the screen, and it shows this tape copy, it feels like at that moment you're supposed to have this realisation, like, wait, and you're meant to be realising what Naomi Watts' character's realising as well, but I didn't get that. At first I was just confused, like, okay, there's a copy of a tape, what does this mean? So I do think maybe the film could have found a better way of delivering that final twist. It's a shame that I've actually heard that the Ring sequels aren't any good, because I do actually think the way this twist ending plays out leaves it so there's a lot of interesting directions you could go with the story after this. And again, I can't comment on the Ring 2 or Rings because I haven't actually seen them, but I really do think the way this movie plays out, again, the way you think it's going to play out, it would seem like a kind of one and done story, but when they kind of completely throw that 180 on you and throw that twist at you, it makes you realise all the possibilities of the things they could have done in future movies. So maybe one day we'll get a story that kind of continues off from where this one left. I think that'd be really interesting. So yeah, I actually really liked The Ring, really enjoyed going back to see this film again so many years later. Please do let me know as well what your experience with The Ring is, whether you have kind of memories of seeing this back in the day. If you haven't seen it for years like I hadn't, definitely revisit this one, because there really is quite an interesting and complex plot going here. I think it's quite a multi-layered movie and got quite a lot going on here. So it is a very, very interesting watch. And again, maybe you are like me and just remembered it for that kind of final reveal with Samara crawling out the screen, but it's definitely a movie I think that's worth revisiting. So again, do let me know that in the comments. So I'm giving The Ring a 4 out of 5 rating. So thanks a lot for watching my review of The Ring. I do plan this month to do some more reviews like this one, kind of going back to revisit some older horror films and some classics as well. So if you're interested in that kind of content, please do come and join me again. So please leave this video a like and do subscribe as well to the channel if you've been enjoying my content, and I'll see you next time.